Hi, today we talk about the Unity IDE. As you can see, Unity is a large window. Typically you use it maximized, and then is divided into rectangular areas that are called tabs. For instance, this is the hierarchy tab, this is the scene tab, the game tab, inspector tab that is more vertical, and then the project tab and the console tab. Now these rectangular areas are very configurable. For instance, if I don't need to have the scene and the game tab always present at the same time, I can merge them like this. So now I have a bigger area, but it dedicated only to one of the two at the same time. Now this makes sense because the scene and the game are pretty much showing the same thing, right? Is the game, the level. But the game is shown mostly when you play, and the scene when you are working on the game, and for instance, you are moving things around, and you see that you can click on an object and you have all these gizmos that allows you to change how things are. Of course, you can always press Ctrl-Z and undo. But now I have the scene. For instance, if I press this triangle button, I play, and the game will be selected automatically, see? And now Unity is simulating playing the game as if it was uploaded on a Nintendo Switch or, I don't know, a PC or a PlayStation. And I can do everything I do normally, like I can jump, I can run, I could like climb stuff, and I could even go, above an incline and then let myself fall, and that's it. There are like so many things we can do, including shooting, aiming, and things like that. Now, once we are happy that we have tested the game, we can press stop, and automatically goes back to the scene. But again, if I want to see them all at the same time, for instance, because while I'm playing and I'm testing things, like now, I can try to maybe also go here and move things around, see? Okay, now I cannot move her, but for instance I could move, I don't know, one of these. See? And actually is pushing her. And just fine. Then once I press stop, everything that I touch goes back into place as it was before. Is a feature of Unity. So you can play with things and it doesn't necessarily affect the final result unless you want to, in which case you can save it. Now, when I click on something like, say, the monolith, right, is this structure here, I can press F in the scene and zoom in and out of it. So I press the monolith in the hierarchy and automatically selected also in the scene. Vice versa, I can click something in the scene and it is also selected in the hierarchy. See the other monolith. And this is because they both, the hierarchy tab and the scene tab represent the same data, the objects in the level. Sometimes it's more intuitive to click on things directly in the scene, in their graphical representation. Sometimes, for instance, look at how many bones Ellen has, the avatar. So many, right? So it would be a little tricky to select them directly on her, right? Try to see where is it, like trying to, for instance, select the bones in the finger, kind of tricky. Well, here is much easier, right? You can just see it. You can see what it is that you are selecting, and then see, it shows it to you like that. There you go. Let's collapse it back because right now we don't need that. So two sides of the same coin, really, the hierarchy tab and the scene tab. Then we have also the project tab that is like a representation of the assets in our game, and it's essentially a snapshot of a hard drive or the SSD, whatever, because there are actually folders in the project called project and called prefabs and runtimes, and it shows inside what's in there, right? So for instance, if I click on the script folder, I see all the files that are scripts. I even get a preview here, right? I can also double click on them and open them, for instance, in Visual Studio or some other editor to write code, modify it, and so on. And here, when I click on an object, for instance, in the scene, I select the monolith. I have in the inspector tab, that usually is more vertical, I have all the components that are in that object. I can see them. You can click on their title, the component, and you see all of them. And then you can expand them, or also using the triangle here. And when you do that, you can see all the things that each component has, all the data. For instance, if I click on Ellen, there's all sorts of data. For instance, this component character has the maximum walk speed, the maximum sprint speed, and the jump speed, and the run speed, and the gravity, and so on and so forth. So if I modify these, her behavior changes. And there's many others, the avatar controller, the character mover, the ground detector, all sorts of things, right? So the inspector gives me like an X-ray view of an object that I select. And whereas the project contains all the assets that are essentially all the objects that can be used more than once. For instance, if I have a material, I can drag and drop it onto different objects. Or I have a script, I can drag and drop it onto different objects because I want all of them to do the same thing. For instance, if I have a script that implements artificial intelligence of goblins, onto every goblin I can drag and drop the script and they all will behave like goblins, right? So anything that can be instantiated more than once, also 3D models, right? I can have a spaceship, I can have it 50 times. Like it can be a swarm of spaceships. Or textures, or sounds, I can reuse them many times, or music, and so on. It goes in the project. Then you have the hierarchy in the scene that represent the object in the level, and then whether you select them through the scene or the hierarchy tabs, in the inspector you can see all the components, and for each component all the parameters of it. And here you can press play, you can also, the second button, you can press stop. So for instance, let's say, you are jumping halfway and then you stop. So you can see what happens, right? Then you unstop it and she falls down. All right. So that's it. There are many more tabs in Unity, for instance, the animator to do animations and so on and so forth. But the essential ones are these. And if you can learn these, we are doing good. We will introduce more because, for instance, we need to learn how to make animations and things like that. But to get started, this is enough. All right? Thank you.